All right, so in our little homework list here, the third table we should learn about is the BIM document. So when we look at this, this is going to become a bit more substantial, and there's a lot of nice logic in here for the BIM document table. So let's look at where it is generally in the hierarchy. Is going to be down here connected to the element table. The BIM document also is part of a VIM file. A VIM file can have multiple BIM documents, and the BIM document also has units. So we'll maybe look at that a bit later. So let's dive into what data is in the BIM document, and then we'll make a little matrix looking at this data. So quite clearly here, we have the file names. That's pretty obvious. That's the name of the file that we have and all of the links that were in there. And we can determine which one is basically the parent file with the links by looking here at whether the file is linked. So if it's not linked, it's the parent, and all of the other ones that are true, those are the linked files. There's also another column here that talks about the file relationship. So the main file is the main file, and the other ones are linked. It's pretty much the same data, but with, a more explicitness instead of saying true or false. Okay, let's just go through this systematically. We will start with the key. So the key, as usual, that's what you count. If you want to count the number of keys here, it's going to say there's 4 BIM documents. That's pretty obvious. And what you can do is you can count the keys per VIMs, right? Because a VIM can have multiple BIM documents. So what would normally happen if we have the VIMs here? So we have the VIM here, the file name of the VIM, and then what we're going to do is grab the BIM document and then say, what's the file name of the BIM document? And if we were to count the keys, we would see the number here. So there's 4 BIM document in this VIM, and each one is a single file, obviously. I'm just going to add this real quick. Boom. So right away, 4111. Okay, let's get back. Now, the next thing is going to be the active view. I think there's a bit of a bug right now where it's not detecting the active view. So when it is there, it's going to tell you what's the name of the 3D view that you've exported. Let's talk about the folder of file. So you'll notice there's 3 different folders here. So there's project information, location, and file. So it's quite important to differentiate these because project information, for example, is a bunch of optional data that you can add inside of Revit, whereas file, well, that's not optional. That's just a true reality. And we've also used the naming scheme file underscore to associate these. So here we have information like whether the file is attached, whether the BIM document is linked, whether the BIM document is metric. If it's not metric, it means it's imperial. Once again, we're dealing with the data the way that Revit sends it to us. So, we do the best with the data that we're given to make it understandable to you. Here we are going to be told whether the file is workshared, whether the file is a parent. It seems like that's not being filled right now, therefore it is hidden. Here we have the file name. That's going to be pretty much the most useful thing when you're looking at a BIM document. You want to know the file name. We also have the number of saves. So for example, if your mechanical engineer has 5 file save in the last 2 years, it probably means they're not working that hard if the architect has like 500 file saves. So this can give you a little bit of an indication of who's actually doing the work they're being paid for, or the frequency of updates just from that data. The path name is going to tell you exactly where that data came from. The product, this is going to be useful if you start mixing Navisworks, IFC, Revit files, and so forth. The product version, that's going to make sure that you're using the right version of Revit or whatever the file may be. The file user, in this case, I believe it's from ACC. So it's just picking up this random name from ACC, whereas if it's exported from Revit, it'll have a more accurate name. This is the calculated column. We talked about it earlier. It's just a friendlier version of where the file came from. And actually, this is a friendlier version of the file unit compared to file is metric. So as you can see, we've already done a bit of work to, make things a lot friendlier in terms of the data. Okay, let's move on to location. So location is going to be a set of parameters that has to do with the geographical location that's been assigned in Revit if it has been assigned. So basically, if we go in the Manage tabs in Revit and go to Location, this is where the data is being pulled from, whether you have a weather station, whether you have a site location, and so forth. All right, after location, we have project information. And I renamed everything in here info. Some people really took it to heart, especially people who don't know BIM. They're like, oh, of course it's going to have the author name and the building name. No, this is all information that is added, I think 95 to 99% of the time. It's not actually accurate. And here we have it, manage project information. So as you can see in here, organizer name, issue date, all of that stuff. Generally, people don't enter the proper information, or they enter like one or two things in here. And when you start comparing it between modules, you'll see it's pretty inaccurate. Now, if your BIM execution plan says you have to enter this and you'll be taking into account, and this is what we use, then that's fantastic. You can use all of these columns. For most people, though, what you're going to find is garbage. So we see it here, very, very inconsistent naming, very useless information, not up to date, not consistent. Look at the, you see a lot of issues in here. People not really filling it out. But if it's there, fantastic. Okay, in the Vim key, in this case, we only have one Vim. This is what makes our connection between the BIM document and the Vim table. So that's pretty much it for the BIM document. As you're probably aware by now, when you start putting in information in here, like the category and the family type, well, all of that BIM document and that Vim information actually even is just all interconnected, and you'll be able to make the tables using these combinations. So I hope this was helpful. We'll move on to the next table. All right, cheers.